I, Black here of Castle Black Gaming, where my house is your house. Everyone who knows me knows that I'm always waiting for the next real MMO to grace our screens, and from what many are saying, Ashes of Creation could just be the game that brings some glory back to MMOs. It certainly wasn't brought back with New World or Lost Ark, but those games did show that there's still a healthy appetite for a worthy MMO. Whether or not Ashes of Creation is going to be the perfect MMO remains to be seen, but in this video I want to go over where the game currently sits at in development and what the game features are and how soon we can expect to have some playthroughs, so let's get to it. Alright, so let's talk about what Ashes of Creation actually is, and now I'm not going in depth here on lore or what the backstory is for everything, but I wanted to put a video out to summarize the game in a simple, digestible chunk without much filler. If you want the history of the company or more in-depth details on anything that I cover here, there's plenty of other videos or info on the website that you can check out, and I strongly urge you to do so. Ashes of Creation is premised on being a dynamic world where players literally shape the zone they play in, which basically translates to organized players utilizing themed nodes in an area such as diplomacy, scientific, trade, or military nodes, and then shaping or reshaping as destruction can play a part in growth as well. Players will be encouraged to build the nodes up through 7 advancements, and as certain milestones are met, the city will evolve and unlock various quests and NPCs that will be able to help your city thrive. Now, much of this sounds like an RTS to me, like games like Civilization or Age of Empires series, which is cool and will be a nice blend into the MMO space, I think, if it works, and doesn't simply devolve into players focusing purely on combat. It will be interesting to see how this is controlled in live environments. The world type of Ashes of Creation, as told by Intrepid Studios, is that they want a 80-20 split, where 80% of the world is open without zone load screens and 20% focused on instanced areas. There will be both PvP and PvE content, with PvE content being focused mainly around the cities created by players in the form of quests, raids, and dungeons. There will be a lot of PvP in the game, as change is predicated on PvP such as factions taking control of nodes so they can conquer and rebuild, or on supply caravans that will traverse the land, and it is during these caravans I think some of the best PvP will take place. So who is populating the world of Vera? There are 4 parent races, which includes men, elves, dwarves, and orcs, with each of these having 2 offshoot races, so 2 types of dwarves, 2 types of elves, etc. Then there will be a 9th subclass known as the Tolvar, which can be a combination of any of those races, and are considered forgotten or shunned by the other races, which should open up some really cool role-playing for players, I think. Moving on, we have classes. Intrepid Studios has said there will be 8 primary or archetype classes, which are Bard, Cleric, Fighter, Mage, Ranger, Rogue, Summoner, and Tank. Then, each of these 8 also doubles as a secondary option as seen here on this graph, giving players 64 options to choose from. So, for instance, you could choose a Fighter as your primary role, and then by having Bard as your secondary role, you take on the role of Blade Dancer, which I would assume is a more coordinated sword fighter with maybe more precise blows. You could even double down on a class and choose to use the same one for both choices, so again, a Fighter-Fighter combination would make you a Weaponed Master. Ashes of Creation will indeed stick to the old Trinity formula of tank, heals, and DPS, and will also have off heals, off tanks, etc. You start off your adventure by choosing that main archetype, and then at level 25 you choose your secondary role, and there will not be any go-backsies here, so choose carefully, and please do not spam forum posts asking for store-bought change tokens, please. Moving on to weapons, these will be something you can level up as well, and with those levels comes their own skills you can add, and speccing into certain weapons can unleash various weapon combos depending on your choice. As for those classes with combat pets, those pets will level and pets will be rooted to certain class archetypes. Crafting is of course a huge part of Ashes of Creation and is known as Artisan. You choose a path from one of 3 parent paths, so either gathering, processing, or crafting, and you may only ever master one, but you can learn the others. But it's going to take considerable time and resources to become proficient in more than one main path, at least with a single character. You will be able to choose to master one of the other 2 or both with multiple characters, which will be a good reason to have alts. Mastering a skill line will grant the player titles, access to items, bargains, and quests. The game's engine started out as being Unreal Engine 4, which did not exactly put wind in many people's sails. But at the beginning of 2020, the team began switching over to Unreal Engine 5, and suddenly interest as well as capability grew, and the stuff we have witnessed so far has been pretty mind-blowing. Updating to Unreal Engine 5 has also added additional benefits like being able to climb instead of just falling, or the far superior lighting effects under the Lumen tech. Also, with multiple designers being able to work on a single zone at the same time, this can increase the workflow, making creation of zones far more streamlined. The goal of the developers is for many people to be able to play the game on many different PC setups, so having many options for players to choose from will hopefully allow a broad range of PCs to be able to run the game at a decent frame rate. The game is being designed for PCs, but consoles are something they might work on at a later time. Questing in Ashes of Creations will consist of religious choices of either light or dark, which can influence your character. Not much has been given out about religion, other than that there will be 6 different religions with positives and negatives a player can encounter depending on which religious belief they have. Again, this is another way to add more role-playing options, and choices in an MMO is always good, so long as it does not turn into a grindy reputation thing. As far as story quest lines, they are split up into 3 types: personal, cultural, and regional. It sounds like the story takes the point of view of an overall people arc instead of a single player, like savior arc, which could be a nice change of pace and flips the typical MMO trope on its ear. As for leveling up, they say it won't be a linear per se way, but you will gain XP from doing things like PvP, PvE, gathering, processing, crafting, exploration, as well as events and quests, and the planned level cap will be 50. Yet, low-level players need not fret, as there will be plenty for them to do with things such as helping to run siege equipment or performing repairs, but there will not be level scaling. The devs do not intend on having leveling boost or auto levels, but say there also won't be grindy quests or raids to run over and over again for gear. So what will Endgame be like? Well, there isn't a story to beat. The game is based more on a sandbox level of play, with constant node struggles being the heart of the game, which should allow for some constant in-game activities. The plan is to have so many various things to do that you don't get bored or feel repetition burnout set in. In Ashes of Creation, character creation and stats are something that will be both familiar and new for players. Stats, for instance, are very much similar to other games where you're going to have certain stats that work best for certain classes, such as power for fighters or dexterity for rogues. None of this reinvents the wheel here, but the character creation tools might just turn many heads with its instant customization options, allowing players to do things many games have never offered before, such as customizing hair length from a style or rotating and enlarging scars. The current best character creator, Black Desert Online, has a serious contender here when it comes to personalization and customization. Speaking of characters, there will be ample room for alts in this game, and with the class mixing, that will be a good thing to try out many different combinations. If the answer to the first 2 items in my title were yes, I would not even be making this video. The developers have stated there will be no pay-to-win items sold that will allow other players to have an advantage over another. There will be no NFTs. And the store items that they will sell will be of cosmetic nature only, without any bonuses to stats. Earnable items in-game will be on par in appearance, or in the case of legendary earnable items will be better than stuff bought in the store, which means that they will reward players who actually play the game with better looking stuff, although better looking is a subjective term. But at least they are putting this in print, as many games will have the best looking items in the game only available via real money. Mounts will also be something that you can purchase in-game, but there could very well be similar mounts you can find out in the wild, similar to those you find in the stores. Also, store items are supposed to be once-in-a-lifetime items, and once gone from the store, not set to repeat. Also, overall gear is said to not be exaggerated or over-sexualized in this game. Now, if all of this were not enough, we did not mention 2 other huge features, and those are boats and breeding of animals, both of which will add something quite unique to Ashes of Creation if pulled off right. First up with boats, this feature is still very much up in the air in terms of things that might change, but the most recent info suggests it will be similar to being an Artisan, where you choose one feature to level up, whether that be gunnery, piloting, boat repair, and ship components, just to name a few. This feature is set to have different sized ships, so solo players would have a smaller ship, then you could have a medium ship like a frigate for small group content, or a large guild ship for raids like a galleon. There are also expected to be deep sea fishing boats, which I could easily see my wife doing. Ship content is supposed to accommodate both PvP and PvE players, and crafting ships is something artisans can set out to do, so I believe this feature will add a ton of replayability and commerce for players to specialize in, and seems like it could almost be a separate game for players all by itself. Ship skins are also something that you will be able to purchase in the shop. And now let's move on to animals and Ashes of Creation. Taming wild animals in the world of Vera will allow players to have at their disposal mounts, pets, beasts of burden, and livestock. Once tamed and your animal husbandry artisanship is high enough, you will be able to breed animals to unlock and build upon traits and genetic strengths and weaknesses, as well as being able to change the appearance of some animals at certain moments in development. You will be able to also breed summoner pets, as well as fighting mounts, flying, gliding, and even water mounts. Leveling up your skill will unlock the ability to tame or breed different animals, and you will also be able to sell your mounts to other players, which will make this part of the game something that is basically a thing to do all on its own, with many generations of animals needed for some special mounts to be created, and there are some confirmed animals that can only be bred into existence and not found by any other means within the game. There is of course no firm release date set in stone. Alpha 2 is rumored to happen in 2022, whether that is late 2022 or mid-year remains to be seen, but they announced Alpha 1 3 months before it was released, and since we're already into April 2022 as of this video, my guess would be that it will be in the last half of the year if it happens in 2022. The most recent production video, as of my video here, showed off a great character customization feature, which to me is something that is absolutely mandatory in getting to Alpha 2, and so I think we're seeing some good headway into reaching Alpha 2 within the year. But we'll keep an eye out on the progress to see if that definitely seems to fit the narrative for this year. After Alpha 2, we'll follow 2 stages of beta before the game can release, and after release, the plan is to have either quarterly or every 6-month DLCs, and the game will have a $15 monthly subscription. So that is my quick breakdown of the game's features and how the progress is looking. What do you guys think? Will this be the great MMO savior we're hoping for, or will it be another flavor of the month that players come into like Locust and blow through? I for one think that the sandbox flavor combined with ship gameplay and the animal system will offer up some definite longer term things to do if they work out right. There are a few survival elements here, and I can tell you firsthand that the first company to successfully pull off a combination of these genres will wholeheartedly win players over and offer up more gameplay than we have probably seen from a new MMO. Anyway, tell me what you think down in the comments below, and remember to have fun, be kind to each other, and always stay positive, gamers.